Okay, welcome back to the Dublin Academy of Maths. Now, we're on the Leaving Cert Ordinary Level Maths and we're on Series 6. There's a new series, Episode 1, and it's Paper 1, and it's Arithmetic, okay? Or Arithmetic, whichever you want to use. Now, I'm giving you the questions here now. Looking at these questions, 800 for your 4 years at 2%, 12,000 for 3 years at 5% per year, 200 euros borrowed for 4 weeks. This is these monthly payback days. You know, there's 225% interest per week. Some of them can go up to 2,000 depending on the amount borrowed. So look at these, £50 borrowed for 6 weeks at 2,000% interest per week, compounded. And last question is 2009, paper 1, question 1C. Now, as you know, my name is Michael, and I'm a teacher or I was a teacher in the City of Dublin Vocational Educational Committee, which is a state school. There's my number, 304-791, if you want to check me out. Email, dublinacademy@gmail.com. Okay, now there is a website address, but we'll get to that. I'll have that marked up when it's ready. Now, we're dealing today with compound interest. There's two formulas. Okay, this formula here is on page 30 of the financial tables, or you have financial tables, page 30. And this is not in the log tables. Okay, so you might want to remember this one. They're much too similar. Okay, now we'll just go through them after a while. Now this is the depreciation one. It's 1 minus R over 100. Okay, just remember that depreciation all is the anti of compound interest. In other words, say you buy a car and you know you have a depreciation value after a couple of years. Okay, after the first few months actually. But anyway, you follow that rule there. So remember that these series involve you doing questions. Now, depending on the number of questions, you get practice. Depending on how many you do, reflects the honor you should get. Okay, so if you do 50%, you should get a high honor. You know, you should get between a C and a B. Okay, now I'm only saying that depending on how much you know. Okay, but really, if you put all the practice in, and remember, maths is not a novel. Okay, you can't read it. You must sit down and do it and burn new brain pathways. Okay, burn pathways. For new ideas. Okay, so you have to, in other words, you have to make errors in order for you to remember your errors. And this is something that is an acceptance. Okay, you can have a basic understanding by reading along, but when you sit down and actually do them, it's only when you realize that you can or cannot do them, and that's when you need practice. Now let's get back to this value C. Now we're looking at these formulas here, and let me describe what the formulas is. P is the initial value. P or F is the initial value. Okay, initial, how much you enter. Okay, or how much you borrow. Okay, so that depends on. So P and F is the is the final. Here we are. Here we go again. Right. Sorry. Now we've got A and we've got F. Now both of those formulas are the same, except R over 100 is represented as I, the decimal point. Okay, and T is the number of years. So A and F is the final amount. Okay, so that's the final how much you get. Okay, so A is equal to, or F is equal to. Now why I'm showing you these two formulas is that you and this is so that you can actually pick them, you know, because some of them are easier to work with. Like R over 100 is not very easy to work with. I is very easy to work for manipulating the formula. Okay. So manipulating the formulas is series 1 as far as I remember. Now, or is P is the principal. That's how principal is the amount that you've invested. Okay, so it's the amount that the initial amount. Okay, that's how initial amount invested. Right, so you invested £10,000, whatever, you know, if you're lucky to have that amount of money. R is equal to the rate, which is percentage rate. Okay. Which is also the same as I, but it's also I in a decimal form. Now decimal form is the same as R over 100. Okay, you just work it out. You divide R by 100. And the next part is T, N. Now N is the number of years, and so is T the number of years. Okay, now I think that's everything. So for example, if R is equal to 10%, that means that I is equal to 10 over 100, which is equal to 0.01. Okay, it goes back 2 places. Alright, 1, 2, right? That should be 0, 1. Okay, it's 1/10. Don't get that confused, use the calculator, that's why they have a calculator here, right? Now let's do a couple of questions. So you get the idea with these two formulas, right? Now calculator, let's have a look at this calculator. Now when you have a calculator, you have, the first thing is this one, okay? And then above it is that. Okay, now it could be the other way around. The root x, they might follow that way. So this will be your button on your calculator and this will be above it. Okay, so in order for me to get the square root or vice versa, it could be, it depends on your calculator. You could have it like this. Okay, so in other words, your button will be one of this, and then your higher function, which you have to find, is you have to use the shift key, or the second function key is called, second F key, to access these top values. Okay, and now I've shown you how to do these before, but when you're looking for a power sign, you know that you put in your value. You're looking for this, so you select this by using this function. Okay, so if you wanted to find out, say for example, 3 to the power of 3. Okay, so you'd put in 3, then you'd shift button, second action function or shift button, and then you will press YX, and then you'll put in 3. Well, let's put in 4. Okay, so let's not confuse the thing. So you put in 4. Okay, and that's how you would deal with those on the calculator. Now I've done these before in the series 1, you should catch it there. For indice rules, maybe you would catch it, but it's not too difficult once you get the hang of it. Well, let's have a look at the question. Now, this is question 10. This is question 1, paper 2010, and it's paper 1. And it says, what sum of money invested, so this is invested, so this is P, okay, so we've got P here. Right, so you just keep writing them down. They don't tell you now the values, I'm just putting them at 5% interest, that is R. Now I'm just showing you this along, normally you would just write this out on the side, will amount to, will come to, will appreciate to, amount to, which is the final value, amount to 8,682 in 3 years. Okay, it says what sum of money invested, so that would be N or T years, okay, relating to these two formulas. I'm going to pick one, okay, so remember we're only dealing with one formula, whichever one suits us, in 3 years. Now, so I write out my formula. I have a lot of these values, so I'm going to pick this one because it seems fairly simple. I'm going to reduce the interest rate. Okay, so 5% is the same as, over 100 is equal to 0.05. So I have 5, I press on 5, divided by 100, to convert it to decimal, is 0.05, as you can see there. Okay, so that's what my new 5% is. 0.05. So I've worked that out because I'm using the formula on the left. Okay, on the right here. I'm using this formula here. So F, I know what F is 8,682. Okay, so I'm putting in the formula. F is equal to P times 1 plus I to the power of T. Okay, so F is the final value, is equal to P, which we don't know because we put it in, 1 plus I, which we know, our interest, which is 0.05, to the power of T, which is 3 years. Okay, and we manipulate this formula. Okay, now we can work all this out, and we get 8,682 is equal to P times 1 plus 0.5 to the power of 3, and you go into your thing, you into your calculator, 1.05. And I have the YX formula, I don't have to go second function or anything like that, and I put 3, and it's equal to P times 1.157. Okay, now it says this is in 3 decimal places. Okay, now so now I have put everything in, and I've you know, done what I could do, and now I am left with a formula with one unknown. Hooray, if I have one unknown, I can find out what my value is, my original value was. Okay, and divided by 1.157, and the answer is 7,497.409. Now it says to the nearest euro. That 9 changes that to a 1, that 1 doesn't affect that 4, and that 4 doesn't change that to 7. So there's no effect on the preceding numbers. So the answer is 7,497 euros. Okay, now I hope you understand that. I'm sure you do. So you're putting in your values. Go ahead and try this out again yourself and see if you can get the hang of it, and you know, we'll see how you get from there. Now there's the next part to this question, and it says a sum P. Okay, let's have a look at this. Now before I forget, remember that this can be used for simple interest, but you not put in your n, you just do it. You have to add your interest every year, okay? Now I'll get back to that again because it's not that complicated. It's just calculating interest year on, okay, and not compounding it, which means you don't add it to the next value. So let's say it's a sum P euros was invested. Now these are the part C's, part 2 of it, at or % per annum per year. Okay, so it says that the interest for the first year, year 1, was equal to 220 euros, and the interest for the second year is 228.80, and it says calculate or P. Now, okay, now so I have to calculate the rate first. Okay, now look, I'm looking at these interests here now. Okay, so year 1 he got an interest of 220. Then from year 2, so year 1 he got an interest of 220, and then year 2 he got an interest of 225. This difference here represents his percentage. Okay, which represents the percentage interest. Okay, I hope you can see that. So what you would do is, what I'm going to do is so the rate is equal to 228.80 minus 220, which is equal to, you can look at it there, €8.80. €8.80. So that's the rate. Okay, that's €8.80, right? Now what I'm saying is there that I need to find my percentage of rate. Okay, and my percentage rate is the original, that over the original. I'll just explain, just write this down, multiply by 100 over 1. And that's equal to 4%. Okay? 4%. Now why am I doing this? It's because I can see that these increase, they increase according to the amount the principal that you've invested. Okay? Now because they increase in such a value, so does the principal. And the principal is increased by the same value. So if I have my interest increasing by this amount, I can calculate that my difference over my original interest is equal to 4%. So from that I can assume that, well, I can rightly assume that the principal is also rising by 4%. Okay, now this is all about relatives. Okay, so if one goes, the other one goes, the follows the same. Okay, so that's the way I work that out. Now some people might have a different way of working it out. Now it says calculate P. Now, well, okay, so to calculate P, let's go over here. Let's see if we can get this right. So to calculate P, so R is at 4%. Okay, which is equal to 220. So P should equal to, so that's 4%. Okay, so 4 over 100 is equal to 220. This is proportions. So 4 hundredths of that represents that. Okay, so in order to find what the original amount is, I have to divide 4 into it. Okay, and then multiply by 100. Okay, I hope you can see this. It's like proportions. by 100 over 1. Ratios and proportions, which will be next. But you will see that, and that answer becomes 5,500 euros. Okay? Now, you can see, let me try and get this right again. So, I know that my rate is 4%. Okay, so I know that 4% is equal to 220 euros. That's my interest. So, in other words, for me to find 100%, I need to divide this by 4 and then multiply it by 100, because it's only 4 100ths, not 100 fourths. In other words, don't divide by 100. Okay? So I divide by 4 and then multiply by 100 to get my original, or to get back to my to get my compound, my A or F, what it's worth. Okay, what's the final amount worth? Okay, now I can't explain it any simpler than that, but you should practice these questions here now. Remember that these are very important. £200 borrow for 4 weeks at 225 interest per week. Okay, now, and the other one for 2,000. And if you look at the TV ads, you can see that they actually do charge those rates, those high rates. And it'd be good for you to pass on that information to people who aren't so savvy on extraordinary amounts that people charge for small amounts of money. Okay, thank you very much, and do those questions.